And here we're going to look at the Extended Report 2023 for SDG number 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth. SDG number 8 has 12 targets, 2 of them are enabling targets, and there are 16 indicators associated with SDG 8. Target 8.1. Sustain per capita economic growth in accordance with national circumstances and in particular at least 7% gross domestic product growth per annum in the least developed countries. So one of the indicators of this 8.1.1 annual growth rate of real GDP per capita. Sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Global real GDP per capita increased at an average annual rate of 1.8% from 2015 to 2019, but decreased sharply by over 4% in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, before recovering to an increase of 5% in 2021. It is estimated that the growth in global real GDP per capita will slow down to 2.1% in 2022 and is projected to slow down further to 1% in 2023 and to increase by 1.8% in 2024. Following an increase of 5% in 2019, the real GDP of the least developed countries recorded only 0.2% growth in 2020 because of the disruption caused by the pandemic. The real GDP of the least developed countries subsequently increased by 2.6% in 2021. It is estimated that the growth in global real GDP of the least developed countries will increase by and projected to increase by 4.3% in 2022 and is predicted to increase by 4.4% and 5.4% in 23 and 24 respectively. However, it is expected that the growth in real GDP of the least developed countries will remain well below the 7% target envisaged by the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The growth in real GDP for the LDCs was consistently less than the 7% target from the year 2000 to 2019. Average annual growth and rate of real GDP per capita. Global real GDP per capita increased at an average annual rate of 2.1% in the period of 2010 to 2014, but slowed down to an increase at an average rate of 1.4% in the period of 2015 to 2021. The lower rate of growth in the 2015-21 period can be attributed to the moderately lower growth in most regions of the world, while the real GDP per capita was actually decreased in the Latin America and Caribbean, Sub-Saharan Africa and Oceania. The average growth in real GDP per capita for least developing countries and landlocked developing countries fell sharply from an average rate of 3.4% and 4% during the 2010 to 2014 period to 1.2 and 1% respectively in the 2015 to 2021 period. These statistics are reflected in a very easy to comprehend fashion in some graphics presented on page 3 there.